สวัสดีครับยินดีต้อนรับนักเรียนนะครับทุกคนเข้าสู่ English 3.1นะครับเดี๋ยวขอเวลาผมแป๊บหนึ่งนะฮะเดี๋ยวผมจะแชร์หน้าจอไปอืมเดี๋ยวนะ for a second give me a second okay okay everyone I'm back give me 1 second okay well hello again and welcome everyone to English 3.1. You guys should be able to see the screen that I'm sharing with you right now. Right. Okay. Yep. Okay. So, first of all, good to know everyone. And first, let's talk about the purpose and the scope of English 3.1. Okay. For those of you who have completed English 2, in fact, English 2 is like we are more than halfway through. I think we are about 70-80% complete. Okay. We have a few more chapters to go, but that's not so much. Okay. So those of you who have done English 2, probably last year, would probably have some idea already about how to, exploit English grammatical rules and structures to your benefit. Okay, because the purpose of English 2 is to equip you guys with knowledge, grammatical knowledge to be able to write good, concise sentences, all right, and to be able to paraphrase sentences. All right, that's the main goal of English 2. Okay, English 3, on the other hand, is not focusing on grammar. Although I'm more than happy to, answers questions about grammars. All right, but English 3.1, all right, the main focus would be on good writing practice. Okay, it's not even about rules. English 3.1, we don't talk about rules anymore. All right, rules are over. All right, it's English 2, where you have to, abide by the rules. All right, because those rules are not made by me. All right, I'm not, I don't make grammar's rules. They make grammar's rules. All right, and in order for you guys to be able to, write naturally and speak naturally, you have to comply with those rules. Okay. All right. So those are not my rules. All right. I'm just teaching you how to, you know, um, use the rules to your advantage. Okay. But English 3.1, all right, is about good writing practice. So basically, I'm going to be sharing with you my experience, okay, and some of the techniques that I use in my writing. Okay, I have done quite a bit of uh, writing different writing tasks. Okay, um, of course I did IELTS exam. I took the test. I also did quite a bit of papers, scientific papers writing, dissertation. Okay, so those are technicals writing, right? Um, so yeah, just want to share with you some good writing practice. All right, so you can either choose to to um, applying my concepts. All right, you might as well make a little bit of adjustment, okay, to my concepts to fit your your way of writing, okay, because everyone's different, right? And like always, prior to our lessons, we're going to take this pre-test, right, just to check your knowledge, okay, before the lesson. Okay, so that's no big deal. All right, you can see on my screen that there are 10 statements. Okay, so we're going to go through each one, and you just simply have to, make a decision whether, each statement is true or false. Okay, don't worry about getting the wrong answers because I'm going to assume that you guys don't know anything. Okay, so it's okay if you cannot answer any of these questions. It's totally fine. All right, it's basically giving you an idea of what to pay attention to when we go into the lesson. Okay, so I'm gonna read each one for you, and you just have to circle the options. All right, there's true and false. Right, true or false. All right, just circle one. Okay, so number one, planning can help you to write faster. I think there's a little bit of a typo here. Let me just correct that real quick. Um, how do I edit this document? Save the device, print. Oops. I think I should be able to write on this Dropbox, but how do I do it? I used to be able to, although I don't remember. Oh, here we go. Edit and cite. Here we go. All right. Okay. Planning can help you to write faster. Feel free to talk to me anytime you want. All right. You just have to, turn off that mute button on your screen. Just turn that off. Okay. It will allow you to talk to me. All right. If you have your mute on, I wouldn't be able to hear. Okay. So planning can help you to write faster. True or false? Make up your mind. Writing is all about expressing your ideas, and the audience have to make effort to understand you. Yep. Okay, is that true or not? You can write whatever you want, and the readers just have to try to understand. Technical terms and jargons can be used with non-expert audience. You think that is true? Technical terms and jargon can be used with non-expert audience. Number four, knowing your audience allows you to get better feedback. Yep. When answering a question, you need to pay attention to direction words. So direction words are imperative words, are words that begin the sentence. Like, for example, discuss advantages and disadvantages of a particular solution, or um, find solutions to a particular problems, something like this. All right. It's basically a verb, right? It's the verb that begins a sentence. That's, those are direction words. So you decide for yourself whether this is true or not, okay? Direction words allow you to stay on point. Yep. If you know direction words, it will help you to be pertinent to the question. It prevent you from going off track, so to speak. Okay. Number seven, free writing doesn't need to be timed. So free writing is is one method of brainstorming. It's a method to help you to generate ideas. And this method doesn't have to be timed. Is it true or not? Number eight, you have to constantly check your ideas when doing free writing. Number nine, asking yourself questions will help you to better anticipate your audience. So anticipates mean to be able to know what your audience is thinking, you know, even though you are not actually speaking to your readers, all right? But when you write, you can sort of imagine that you are a reader. And as a reader, what would you want to know? What would be the next thing that you want to know? Yep. So you can read your reader's mind. You should be able to read your reader's mind. Okay. Planning is only a classroom practice. So planning, it only matters when we are together in our session. Outside of the class, when the session is over, you don't need any plan. Is that true or not? Okay, so that's it. Okay. Feel free to talk to me or ask me any questions. Okay, I'm more than happy to talk to you. Okay. Last session, I mean English too. My previous course, right? Nobody talks to me, so I basically talk to myself. Okay, I don't want to be used to talking to myself. All right, I want to be able to interact with human beings. Okay. Um, okay. Maybe the first thing I would like to share with you guys is my techniques to build vocabulary. All right. Well, it doesn't matter if English is your first language or not. All right. Learning words is always important. Okay. I've had, um, through my career, I've taught quite a few international students whose English is, quite good, above average, right? But when it comes to technical writing, it's not just a matter of um, it's not a matter of how familiar you are with, certain words. It's about how much you know about the subject that you're writing about. Okay, so basically, your choice of words depends on your understanding of the concept, your understanding of that subject. I think someone is trying to talk to me, but he's having a difficulty. So let me just because I can hear microphone, I can hear it. All right, but not sure. So if you want to talk to me, but you have microphone issues, you can also send me a message, okay? If you go to if you tap on chat, all right, you should be able to see this option at the bottom menu. All right, it's the fourth item from the left. All right, so the left you will see mute. If you want to talk to me, make sure that this option is not crossed. All right, and then you will see video, participants, and chat. All right, you want to talk to me, just tap on chat and send me a message. All right, okay. Oh, sorry. Um, here we go. Yeah. So learning words is very important. Okay, and you will improve your word choice if you know more about your subject matters. Okay. For example, if you don't know anything about environmental science, okay, what is it that comes out of your car exhaust pipe? Pollution, right? What happens when you burn something? Pollution, pollution, pollution. That's the only words you know, pollution, CO2, pollution, CO2. All right. You you probably won't know how to use the word greenhouse gases. It's not because your English is bad, all right, but because you don't know well enough about your subject matter. What is greenhouse gases? right? Okay. But if you understand your subject matters better, then you would know that any gases that are emitted, all right, as a result of burnings, burning all kinds of fuels, okay? Any gases, all right, that comes out and, rise up to our ozone level, all right, in our atmosphere, and that's the job of reflecting heat, back onto our Earth's surface, kind of like a blanket. Those gases are known as greenhouse gases, and they call greenhouse gases because they behave pretty much similar to the greenhouse where they, keep plants. Greenhouse, right? Right. If you go to a farm somewhere, you would see a greenhouse. So it's basically a structure, right, that is transparent, right? The roof is transparent, the wall is transparent, probably made of plastic of some sort. Okay. And so the greenhouse allowed the sun radiation to pass through. Okay. And when the sun radiation pass through, it has a shorter wavelength, higher frequency, more energy. Okay. And the energy is absorbed by everything inside the greenhouse. Could be the soil, could be the plants, any objects. All right. But when the sun set, okay, when there's no more sun in the sky, all those things begin to radiate heat, back out. Okay. But when all this stuff inside the greenhouse radiate heat, the heat has a longer wavelength. Okay, longer wavelength. So that means it has less energy. It cannot pass through um, the uh, the glass materials. So the glass material just reflect heat back, you know, into the room, causing the temperatures to rise up. So that's greenhouse gas for you. Anyway, okay. So yep, your word choice will improve with your knowledge. Okay, and now when you read something, okay, when you read something, you should be observant about how the words are put together. Let me give you an example. Okay, suppose you come across, you know, maybe a sentence on an article. Let's say you found something that looks like this. There has been an increase in the popularity of the use of AI. Okay. In um, in marketing industry. In marketing industry. Okay. Suppose you come across that. It could be from a journal article or news article or whatever. Okay. Um, if you're Thai national and your English is not your first language, okay, what I suggest you do is to translate this, like translate it, but don't use machine to do it. Don't use ChatGPT or whatever. Do it yourself. Okay, do it yourself. Do it any way you like, but try to make it as natural as possible. Okay, personalize it, right? Don't just go. มีการเพิ่มขึ้นของความนิยม because even though that's correct, it's not going to be the how you talk. You don't talk like this. All right. And let me give you an example of how I think most Thai people would talk. All right. Most Thai people would say, เดี๋ยวนี้ this is the adverb that we like to begin our sentence with, right? เดี๋ยวนี้ okay. Then I would say เดี๋ยวนี้ พวกสื่อต่างๆ right? Marketing industry is just พวกสื่อต่างๆพวกสื่อต่างๆพวกสื่อโฆษณา I would say พวกสื่อโฆษณาการตลาด right? พวกสื่อโฆษณาการตลาด something like that. It doesn't have to be precise, it doesn't have to be perfect. It just have to be um, the way you talk, right? เดี๋ยวนี้พวกสื่อต่างๆเขา right? เขาอ่านิยมใช้ AI กันมากขึ้น Okay. It doesn't have to be technically accurate. Okay. It just has to be something that, it has to be the kind of phrase that you use. That's it. Okay. Just give me 1 second. I heard something fall upstairs. I just have to go and have a look, and I'll be right back. All right, guys, I'm back. Okay. And then what you want to do is to try to translate this back into English. Okay. But it has to be your English, okay? And it doesn't have to be perfect. Not at all. It doesn't have to be perfect. All right. Now, some people have the habit of doing word for word translation. Fine. Okay. You can't help it anyway. All right. A lot of people study grammars, right? So they know a lot of rules. Some people know more grammatical rules than I do. Yeah. But at the end of the day, when it comes to speaking, people just do word for word translation. Okay. And they make all kind of mistakes. Okay. Because when you don't have time to think about grammars, you just, you know, put words together the way you think they should sound without without your awareness of how the rules should work. Okay. Yeah, that's typical. So all right, let me give it a try. I mean, you guys can also, be part of this. Okay. Let's see how you translate this to English. Okay. Let's see if our, you know, outcomes are the same. Okay? So I think most people would say nowadays. Okay. Nowadays, um, Advertising people. Okay. Advertising people. They like to use. They like to use AI more than before. Okay. All right. I think that's how most people would write. Okay. Yep, there's nothing wrong with this. It's just I think the major difference between the original version and this version is the technicality of the language. All right, and the formality of the language. You will see that the original version they use a more, complex structures. All right, and the word choice is a little bit more formal, more academic, like popularity, increase in popularity. Right, that sounds pretty formal. Yeah, but this is more conversation-like, more colloquial. All right, which is okay, if you're having a conversation with someone, but if you're writing, then you have to um, adjust your tone of your language to be more academic. Okay. All right. So the next thing you want to do is to make a table like so. All right, I'm making a table. You want to break it down into three columns. You want to call the first columns Thai expression, which is using EXP. All right, which is shorted for expression. And then the middle column, you would call it My English EXP, My English expression. And then the last column, you want to call it Native English expressions. Yep, like so. Okay, now, how are you going to fill your first entry? Well, let's go back to our input here. Okay, so for Thai expression, you want to cross out words that can vary. All right. In other words, you want to identify the variables. So variables are words that can be different. Let me give you an example. Okay, if I take this term, สื่อโฆษณาการตลาด, right? Okay, I take this to be, maybe this is not a good color. Let me just use um, yellow. Yellow is more color. Oops. Okay, so this I think is a variable. It can vary. It doesn't have to be this word. And I think AI is also a variable. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be AI. Okay. So I'm now left with the first word, the second word, and the third word. So those three will go into my first entry for in the first column Thai expression. Okay. So I'm going to write that down. เดี๋ยวนี้นะครับ Okay, and because I crossed this one off, right, I will need to use a pronoun. And my pronoun is just this, ใครนะครับ Our language, we like to use double subject นะครับใครเช่นโฆษณาพวกสื่อโฆษณาเขาอะไรอย่างเงี้ยนะครับบริษัทนี้เขาอะไรเงี้ย Okay, so those are known as double subjects. All right, double subject is not allowed in English. In English, you're only allowed to have one subject, not two. Okay? เขานิยมใช้ Okay, now AI would be อะไร In fact, I would just, make this a little more flexible. I would say เดี๋ยวนี้ใครเขานิยมทำอะไร like that. Um, just like that. Okay. Now you do the exact same things for your English expression and native expression. Okay. So for the original native expression, you just cross off what? You just cross off marketing industry. You don't want to take that in. Okay. You don't want AI. Okay. Everything else will go into the entry. For your English expression, you can you can leave out advertising people. You don't need that. Okay. You don't need AI. Everything else will just go into your first entry. Okay. So my English, you would write nowadays, and instead of writing advertising people, just use a pronoun. Someone, some organization, doesn't matter. All right. Someone, they like to use something. It's okay for your English expression to contain some grammatical errors. Like in this case here, you will see that I'm using double subject. I said someone, they. This is not allowed in English, but we do it like this so that we know how we how we usually translate things. Okay, and then later on you will see that when we do our practice, okay, our practice will um, will help you to depart from this the conventional way, the old way of translating to the native way of of translating. You will see in a second. Okay, so for now, just don't worry about having some grammatical errors in your English expression. You just write it the way it is. Okay, someone they like to use something um more than before. Just write it out like this. Okay, as for native expression, you would write down there has been an increase in the popularity of something in somewhere. Okay, so this is just a more formal version of saying the same thing. Okay, so when you talk to your friend, feel free to use mindless expression. That's not bad. But when you are writing to someone that you don't know, use native expression. Use in fact, you can just say formal or academic. I would say academic or formal. Okay, because we want to switch from this to this. Okay, so here we go. Just this will help us to make a better comparison between my English expression and academic English expression. Okay. Aside from grammatical errors, you will also see that the academic expression uses present perfect tense. All right. Whereas my English expression relies on present simple tense. Okay. So is present perfect better than present simple? Well, it's not about better or not as good as, right? It's about whether you have a good reason to use present perfect or not. There are many times where you can use present tense instead of present perfect. Okay, it just depends on um, what do you want to focus on, what your key message is. Okay. For example, I can say, if you ask me, hey, Nat, what do you do for a living? I can say, well, I'm an engineer. Or I can say, well, I've been an engineer for 3 years. Okay. So both are okay, in conversation. When you say, I'm an engineer, I'm a teacher, I'm a nurse, I'm a doctor, you focus on the fact that your occupation is, a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, or teacher. Okay. But if you use present perfect, you focus on you more concerned about the length of time that you have been doing or been engaging in a particular profession. You want to focus on the duration, your experience, how long you have been a teacher, how long you've been an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer. Okay. All right. So in this case here, you talk about popularity. Popularity is basically, a phenomenon of, having a lot of people doing something. EV car is a good example. EV car, I think it has been around for many years, but we start to see more and more people buying and driving electric vehicles, right? There are a lot of, you know, brands, EV car from China, okay? Before there was just Tesla, right? Tesla, I think the pioneer of EV car. All right, but then Chinese manufacturers, they were able to keep up with the technology. They be able to apply and advance their own technology in their production. And now there are more than, I think, 10 companies that manufactures EV cars, right? Okay, as more people are driving EV cars are becoming popular. Okay, so popularity is a degree. It can increase or decrease depending on the population, depending on how much people are using something. All right. Okay, so popularity can increase. Okay. And when something increases, there is a time span. Okay, if something increased steadily, for example, more and more people are using EV car. Say, 5 years ago in 2020, only 30% of the motorists are using EV car. So 30%, not that much, right? Out of 100, there are only 30, people who use EV car, right? But then in 2021, maybe that percentage rises up to 40%, to 50%, 60%, 70%. I don't think it's 70% yet, but let's assume it's 70%. So if it's 70%, that means majority of the drivers are using EV cars. If there are a million motorists, millions drivers, 700,000 are using EV. The rest use the conventional combustion engine, internal combustion engine. Okay. All right. Um, So the choice of tense is interesting here, right? The use present perfect. Okay. All right. And also the use of the word popularity. Okay. Instead of using use something more than before. That's just more concise. All right. Okay. If popularity of something increase, it simply means more people are using that thing. Okay. Um, the next thing you probably want to do is to identify the part of speech of your new words, in the last column. Okay? Part of speech, if you study English 2 with me, it will come in handy. If you know part of speech, you're like a chemist. All right. You can play around with word form when you paraphrase. Right. If you know part of speech. If you don't know part of speech, then you need to know more words in order to paraphrase. If you know part of speech, you don't need to know too many words in order to be able to paraphrase. Okay, and you will see in a minute how knowing part of speech can come to your advantage. Okay, so I'm going to identify the part of speech of my new words. Okay, so there, what is it? is an adverb. Just use green, color green, make it more visible to you guys. All right, that's an adverb. What about this? That's a modal auxiliary, MOD, okay? That's a linking verb. Increase, in this form is a noun. In is our preposition. Popularity in this form is a noun. And this is the preposition. Okay, just label the associated part of speech for every new words. Okay, next is the, oh my God, is the practice part. Okay, so you can consider this table your vocab database. All right, you have your data. You can continue to build your database by adding more and more entry. Okay. The next step is to practice, right? You can't just keep building your database without practice, right? If you don't practice, then there's no way that you'll be able to adopt the new style of writing, the more academic version. You won't be able to unless you do consistent practice. Okay, so to practice, you want to make a sentence using your Thai expression. Okay, so right now, if you look at the leftmost column, all right, you will see my Thai expression, and some of the words are missing. Just need to fill the gap. You can fill the gaps with any words, any word at all right? Allow me to show you an example. So I would say เดี๋ยวนี้ใคร I would say นักเรียนไทยนรไทยนะครับเขานิยมทำอะไรกันเรียนต่อต่างประเทศนะครับเรียนต่อต่างประเทศกันมากขึ้นอืม Here we go. So I have a complete sentence. The next step is to try to use the academic English expression to translate this. You have to restrain yourself from using your own style. Okay, you have to force yourself. So this is the part where you try to break your habit of using this structures and word choices. You want to go from here to here. So this is the part where you have to force yourself. It's not going to be very comfortable because you're forcing yourself. Okay. But once you get used to this, you will be very good at writing. Okay. So how am I going to use the new structure to translate this? So I have to match the variable. Okay. You will see that I have something and I have something and somewhere. So what is something in this expression, in this sentence? What could be regarded as something? เรียนต่อต่างประเทศ This action is your something. You just need to be able to see the relationship here, okay? And what should be regarded as somewhere? นักเรียนไทย This is your somewhere. Okay. You might not see it, but นักเรียนไทย how is it somewhere? นักเรียนไทย is คนไม่ใช่เหรอ it's people. Why is it somewhere? Well, it is because when I translate, it's all it can be retraced back to how I translate it. Okay, if you look at how I translate original sentence, okay, I say พวกสื่อโฆษณา right เขานิยมใช้ AI กันมากขึ้น right I didn't really use somewhere, didn't I? Well, I don't know why I put somewhere, but let's make it option, all right? It could be in somewhere or among someone. My apology.
Okay, in somewhere or among someone. Okay, so you can say เดี๋ยวนี้นักเรียนไทย that could be somewhere or someone. Well, I can do both version. Don't worry. Okay, somewhere or someone. Okay, here we go. So all you have to do, all you have left to do is just fill the gap, right? Plain and simple. There has been an increase in the popularity of. Okay, now something is เรียนต่อต่างประเทศ right? Studying abroad. Okay, then you have options. All right, if you want to use somewhere, then you would say in Thailand. But if you want to use someone, then you go among Thai students. All right, that's it. Okay, so that's how you do it. This is just a practice part of this vocabulary learning. Okay, it's a practice part. All right. So as you see, to build your vocab, you start with finding new words. Okay, so finding new words is important. That's your primary step. Your following the next step is to build your database. All right, and the third step is to practice. Yep. Okay, and practice makes perfect. Okay, so um, if you want to do more practice, basically just you know filling the gap with some new words, okay, and trying to force yourself to use the academic version, okay. During your first trials, you can have an open book test. That means you can look at your table, all right. But after a while, you should not allow yourself to see the table, right? To see if you can remember those structures, right? Because if you have to keep looking at the table, that means, you won't be able to do this on your own. You need the tables, okay? And you can't carry these tables with you everywhere, right? Okay. Next, like I said, um, paraphrasing is paramount to writing. Yeah. Why is paraphrase so important? Well, first of all, it shows that you actually understand the concept. Okay. If you understand something, you should be able to explain it in your own words. So that means you have to paraphrase. When I explain something to you, I'm gonna have my own style, right? I'm gonna have my own style. For example, if I say, um, 8 is an even number, and the reason why 8 is an even number is because it can be divisible by 2. You see, this is my way of explaining to you. But if you understand me, you don't have to repeat word for word. All right. You have to be able to say it your own way. For example, you can say, according to the number theory, any number that is divisible by 2, being to be evenly divisible by 2 is mean once you divide by 2, there's no remainders. Okay. So any number that has this behavior when it's divided by 2, no remainders, that number is an even number. Now, 8 can be evenly divided by 2, no remainders. Therefore, 8 is an even number, okay? So yeah, many different ways to say the same thing, okay? So if you can um, um, use your own words to explain the same thing that I do, that means you understand the concept, okay? And your teacher would appreciate it, all right, if you can explain things in your own words. Paraphrase important. Now, with regards to plagiarism, okay, paraphrasing is also quite important because every time you submit your assignment, okay, there's going to be an AI that compare your documents against hundreds of thousands of documents in the database. All right. And when they see matches, it's going to reflect in your plagiarism percentage. If you see a lot of matches, like 30, 50%, then you have to rewrite your assignment because your plagiarism is too high. All right. The plagiarism level is too high. This means you copy from too many places, many sources. Just have to rewrite it. Yeah. Okay, so you don't want that either, right? You don't want to rewrite your assignment. So it's important to paraphrase. Now I understand that a lot of you are quite well versed with technology. A lot of you know how to use AI, ChatGPT, right? Well, ChatGPT, excellent tool for paraphrasing. Yes, it's excellent. You can even tell it to adjust the tone and whatnot, all right? But your teachers also know you, all right? When your teachers talk to you, he's going to know your level of English, right? Okay. So when you use ChatGPT to paraphrase things for you, there's going to be a huge discrepancy between your English um, and your spoken English and your written English. There's going to be a huge discrepancy, and your teacher will be able to see it. Even I can see it. I've done a lot of proofreading. I've seen, you know, I can basically tell that, okay, this is AI produced documents or not. There are certain patterns, all right, certain phrases, okay, and you can almost tell immediately that, hey, this is a word done by ChatGPT, right? Okay, so you don't want to rely on ChatGPT too much. Okay, you don't want to go, hey, this Thai sentence, can you translate that to English? Okay, what I think you should do, all right, is to write something in English and then ask ChatGPT to correct it. Is it ask ChatGPT, is this correct? Are there any grammatical errors? You don't ask ChatGPT to do work for you. You can ask ChatGPT to check it for you. I think that's the best way. Why? Because you also learn from the mistake. Because the AI will explain to you that, hey, you cannot use this particular words or this particular grammar is not correct. Why? It will explain to you. Okay? Maybe I've nothing better than a good example. Okay? Let me just show you how you should use ChatGPT to check your work. Okay, so I'm going to open ChatGPT right now. I'm gonna go ChatGPT, OpenAI. Okay, now I'm going to write something that will be incorrect. What should I write? Okay, I want to say, okay, maybe the burning of fossil fuel can be affect the environment. Okay, now this is a grammatically incorrect sentence. Okay, and I can tell you why this is incorrect. Okay, the reason why this is incorrect is because I'm not supposed to be using be in my sentence. The burning of fossil fuels can be affect environment. That is wrong because this is an attempt to use passive voice. And using passive voice is not suitable in this expression because the subject is not receiving action. The subject is performing the action. But I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to ask ChatGPT, to double check, to proofread my sentence. Okay, so I'm gonna put a quote, a double quote around my my sentence like that. And then on the next line, I'm gonna ask ChatGPT, would you be able to maybe just yeah, I just want to be polite to the AI. Okay, would you be able to check if this sentence is grammatically accurate? If not, please please specify the words that are not correct. And explain to me why. Okay, here we go. If not, all right, let's see. The sentence burning force can be affect is not grammatically correct. Perfect, okay? And let's look at the explanation, all right? The phrase can be affect is incorrect. Yeah, exactly what I told you. Can be requires past participle to form passive voice. Can be affected. Affect is the base form of the present verb, not the past participle. Correct sentence should be the burning of fossil fuel can affect the environment. You see, this is very good. I mean, I really envy young people this day because if you know how to use AI, you'll be super learner. You can learn things so quickly. All right. Back in my days, no one would sit down next to me and tell me that, hey, this is correct, this is incorrect. Why this is incorrect? You have this opportunity to learn from this multiple PhD professors. ChatGPT, he knows everything. He would have so many PhDs. You can even ask it to explain to you in Thai. All right. Can you do this? Can you do this in Thai, please? I like to be polite with ChatGPT.นะครับ right เห็นไหมครับประโยคไม่ถูก grammar เพราะว่า can be ไม่ถูกเห็นไหมเขาอธิบายให้ฟังเลยเนี่ยถ้าใช้ can be ไม่ได้เป็นโครงสร้าง passive voice นะครับนะ right in the example นะผมขอพูดไทยนิดนึงแล้วกันประธานมันต้องประโยคมันต้องสื่อความหมายว่าการเผา fossil fuel หรือเผาไหม้เชื้อเพลิงเนี่ยนะครับส่งผลต่อสิ่งแวดล้อมไม่ใช่ได้รับผลกระทบถูกไหมมันต้องส่งนะครับดังนั้นการใช้ passive voice เนี่ยเลยไม่ถูกนะครับที่ถูกคือต้องใช้เป็น active voice ก็คือ burning of fossil fuel สามารถ affect นะครับต้องตัด be ทิ้งนะครับไม่ใช่ไปใช้ passive ต้องใช้ active นะโอเคมีการแบบส่ง smiley face โอเค alright okay now you see right so use AI to your advantage people don't let the AI spoil you don't let the AI do work for you and rob your opportunities to learn be a manager be smart and use your AI as your assistant okay not your smart friend all right not like hey can you do this homework for me okay don't abuse AI Okay, I'd just like to take a quick break, okay, 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and have some more fun together. All right, I'll see you in 10 minutes.
Hey guys, welcome back. Okay. Right. Okay. Next, next I'm going to show you how to paraphrase the sentence. Okay, so let's say you are now quite familiar with the use of this new structure that you have learned. Okay, and imagine when you write an assignment, maybe 3,000 words, there's going to be repetitions of a certain phrase, of course. Okay, so how would you avoid using the same wordings, using the same word structures? How would you avoid that? You have to paraphrase. Okay. Now, most people, when it comes to paraphrasing, they would use synonyms. Okay. Now, synonyms can be tricky. All right. Why? Because even though certain, two words may have the same meaning, right? Home and house, right? Home, house, they same meanings, right? But do they have the same collocation or not? Can we replace home with house in every application? Can you do that? Think about it. Home and house. Home versus house. Same meaning. But can we replace home with house for every expression that we use? Don't think too much, right? Don't go too far. Think about this very common expression, I want to go home. I want to go home. Can we replace home with house? Can we say, I want to go house? Is that okay? No, it doesn't, does it? It doesn't, right? So that means just because two words have the same meaning doesn't mean they are interchangeable. One cannot always substitute the other. And this is a good example. You can't always substitute, house for home. They are not 100% interchangeable. They don't have the same collocation. Okay, so if you use synonyms technique, right, if you use synonym strategy, chances are that you may make grammatical errors. You may have bad collocations, and in worst case, it can change the underlying meaning of the sentence, right? Because homework, that's one meanings, right? What about housework? Are totally different meanings. Yeah, you guys probably, if I ask you which one would you prefer, homework or housework? You, most people will say housework, right? Because you don't have to use so much brain. Okay, that's homework. Nah, it's too much. All right, your brain needs some rest. Okay, homework, work on your brain, right? Housework, your muscle. Anyway, so don't rely too much on the synonym strategy. All right, it can be tricky. Okay, now my suggestion is to use part of speech. Okay. So let's have a look at the word increase. So increase, it can have multiple forms, right? Increase could be a noun. Increase could also be a verb. When it's a verb, increase can be an intransitive. Increase can also be a transitive, which is a verb that takes object. If you add ing to it, it can be an adjective. If you add ing and then ly to it, it can be an adverb. And that is just English 2 knowledge, right, people? If you should know all of this by heart if you study English 2 with me, right? Okay, so these are the possible forms for the terms increase. Okay, what about popularity? That is a noun. Popular, on the other hand, is an adjective.
You have a noun, an adjective. You have popularize. That's a verb. You also have population, but that's a totally different meaning, right? So let's not include this. Okay. Now, if you study English too, you should know what part of speech can be used together and what part of speech cannot be used together, right? Okay, if I'm using increase as a noun, I can pair it with popularity, no problem. All right, I could use a preposition to join these two nouns together, like increase in popularity. If I'm using increase as a verb, I can also use it with popularity. Maybe I can use popularity as a subject, like popularity increase. If I'm using increase as a transitive verb, I can use it again with popularity, but I just have to change from subject to object, right? Something like popularity is increased, or something increases the popularity. If I'm using if I'm using increasing increase as an adjective, increasing, I can still use it with popularity because adjective can modify it now. I just have to put increasing in front of popularity. That's it. If I'm using increasingly, I can use that. I cannot use increasingly with popularity anymore because now and adverb they don't go together. So I need to pair this one with popular. Okay? Now, when I do this, it looks like I will have another four possible um, combinations. Okay? Because the original expression is already taken care of increase as a noun, popular as a noun. Okay? But if I'm using increase as a VI, increase as a VT, increase as an adjective, and as an adverb, I will have one, two, three, and four. So four more possibilities, four more sentences. So let's start with number one, using increase as a VI with popularity as a noun. Okay, so um, basically, you will need to use your popularity as a subject. So your sentence is going to start with popularity and then increase like that, right? Okay, that's how the word should be ordered. That's your subject, that's your VI. But let's have a look at the original sentence. They use present perfect, right? Okay, so we're going to follow that. We're going to use the same tense. How do I use present perfect here? What words do I have to add to my sentence? I need to add a modal auxiliary has. Okay. And then I have to change that into past participle. So popularity has increased. Okay. And then what else do I have to add? You know, um, just some modifiers, right? Some like something and someone. So what is something? Something is studying abroad. So I can make that the complement of popularity. Just move this a little bit further, and I can just say of studying abroad. Okay. Now, once I make of studying abroad the complement, that means the term popularity becomes what you call definite. So I'm going to need a definite article to go with it. So the popularity of studying abroad has increased. Now, I just add among Thai students. There we go. All right, our first paraphrase. Okay. Next, let's have a look at the second one, increase and popularity. Okay. So because I'm using increase as a VT, popularity is a noun. I think the best option is to use passive voice. So I will have everything else going to look the same. The popularity of studying abroad. Okay. But when it comes to the main verb, I'm not using active because I'm using V increase as a VT. So I need linking verb and then past participle increased. Okay. The popularity of studying abroad has been increased among Thai students. Okay, there's no major difference in meaning. Okay, the only difference between these two sentences is that the first sentence assumes that popularity is a quantity that can change by itself. All right, popularity is assumed to be a quantity that can change, can increase or decrease by itself. But the second sentence is assume that popularity is a quantity that need to be increased or decreased. It does not change by itself. Something has to happen to raise the level of popularity or to bring down the level of popularity. That's the only difference. Okay. Right. Next, let's use increase as an adjective. So if I'm using increase an adjective modifying popularity, then I know for a fact that increasing has to be right in front of popularity. So this is how it should look, popularity, like that, increasing popularity. All right. This actually, if you study English too, then you would know that this is a compact version of the actual relative clause. The actual relative clause will sound like this: the popularity that increases. Popularity that increases. And then you reduce it to an adjective. So you remove that and you turn the finite verb into a participle and then you bring it in front of the noun that you want to modify. Okay, so basically from behind to in front of popularity. Okay, increasing popularity. Now I have an options, right? I can use studying abroad as my subject. I think that should be fine. I can say studying abroad. Okay. And now, so if I'm using studying abroad as my subject, then I have to connect this now with this now, and also to make it a sentence. The only thing that will allows me to form a sentence is a VT, what you call a transitive verb. Okay, so I can put has in between. So say studying abroad has increasing popularity. Okay, and if I want to stick to present perfect, then I'm going to move this has a little bit away from abroad so that I can put an auxiliary. All right, this is the modal auxiliary. This is used to make a present perfect. And then I will have to change the verb form from has to past participle, had. Studying abroad has had increasing popularity. Okay? Another way, though, is to use this. There has been. Okay? This is the same as there is, but with present perfect. There has been increasing popularity of studying abroad among Thai students. Okay? So you see the difference. Now I'm using popularity as a subject. Okay? But increasing, still an adjective, right? It's always in front of popularity. Next, let's try to use increasing as an adverb, increasingly. Okay? So when I'm using increasingly, is an adverb, isn't it? So the adverb will have to modify adjective. Adverb modify adjective is placed in front of an adjective, so increasingly popular. Okay, that's it. Okay, now I can say studying abroad is increasingly popular. I'm just using linking verb, right? I'm just using a linking verb to join popular to studying to make a sentence. But because I want to stick to present perfect again, I'm going to move this aside. Okay, so I want to make some room for the modal auxiliary has. So once I have my has, I can then turn this linking verb into the past participle. So the third form of is been. Studying abroad has been increasingly popular among Thai students. Okay. And then if you wonder, you can also ask ChatGPT to double check. Now you can ask ChatGPT to check the grammatical integrity. All right. And then ask ChatGPT to compare between your sentence and the original sentence to see if there's any change in meaning. If ChatGPT say no, those two sentences they don't have the same meaning, it can confuse the readers and whatnot, then it will give you suggestion and you just follow it. In fact, you have to decide for yourself whether to follow ChatGPT suggestion or not. Okay, right? You gotta have some critical thinking. Okay, guys. You guys have any questions so far? Are we good? Let me see a thumbs up if we are good, so I can move on. Of course, I can't see your thumb. We are not in the physical class anyway. So, you guys have anything to say? Go ahead. All right. I will pop in here every now and then to have a look at the message that you sent to me. All right. Otherwise, just turn off the mute, turn on your microphone, and talk to me. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Let's begin our first chapter. Okay, so the first chapter is about the essence of planning. Okay? So let's talk a little bit about planning. Why is it that we need to plan? You guys have any idea? Why do we have to plan? What's the point? Any idea? Okay? No? Well, okay. You plan in order to minimize what? Minimize the risk. That's when you plan, right? You want to minimize all sorts of risk. Okay? Um, you can think about something as simple as your everyday commute. Say you drive from home to school. If you don't plan, then you might be late for your class. Why? What is it going to cause you to be late for your class? Well, traffic conditions, of course, right? Maybe there's an accident on your regular route, okay? Um, that cause you to be on the traffic for longer hours than usual. So if you plan, right, if you look at your um, Google Map, right, Google Map will tell you, hey, this route will take approximately 30 minutes. This regular route of yours, unfortunately today, there's a huge accident. It's going to set you back by 15 minutes, 45 minutes, so to speak. All right. So you know which route to take. Instead of taking your regular route, try an alternative route because today there's an accident. And if you take your regular route, you might be late for your class. And if you're going somewhere that you don't know, like you're traveling outside of Bangkok, you go on vacation with your family somewhere in Pattaya, okay? Um, you don't know, you book a hotel, right? You know which hotel you want to be staying, but you haven't been there before. So if you plan in advance, all right, you look at Google Map, you pick your route, and then you look at the directions. You read the directions. All right, you got to be on motorway number 7, okay? And then you have to stay on motorway number 7 all the way until you reach this particular point, and then this point and that point. All right, if you remember um, all those points, then chances are that it will minimize your risk of getting lost. Okay, it will minimize your risk of getting lost because sometimes your says you don't have good internet connection, right? Then you can't use your GPS anymore because you don't have internet connection. But if you can remember the directions, it will, you know, um, minimize your chance of getting lost. Now, the same is true for writing. If you have done any writing, that you would know that if you don't plan, then you're going to mess things up. All right. You're going to get to the point where you run out of idea and you don't know how to proceed any further. You get stuck. You don't know what to do. That's bad. Okay. And it's worse in a time situation, like in the exam, when you don't have 24 hours to do your writing. In most exam, you have about 1 hour to do your writing, correct? 1 hour. Okay. And in that hours, in that amount of time, you can't just write. It's not. It's the time given to you to complete the task. Okay, but the task does not involve just writing. It involves brainstorming. Okay, it involves proofreading. Okay. So if you start off writing and then you realize somewhere along the way that, hey, I'm heading towards a wrong direction here. I cannot proceed any further. I want to go back. There's no going back. It's too late. Okay. If you go back, then you waste you know 10, 15 minutes of your writing time. You have come this far, you can't go back. Okay, so you don't want that to happen. You don't you want to start off on a good foot heading towards the right direction. That's why you have to plan. Okay. So how do you plan, first of all, when it comes to writing? How do you plan? Well, first, you have to understand the instruction. You need to know what they want from you. Okay. And then you have to plan on your sources of information. Okay. What should be your source of information? It depends on your readers, how picky your readers are. If your readers are not so picky, all right, then if your readers are not so concerned about the information validity, Wikipedia all the way, ChatGPT. ChatGPT sometimes retrieve information from Wikipedia. All right. No worries. But the situation is your readers are quite picky about your source of information. Your readers want to know who the authors are, all right? Who is responsible for that article, who wrote the article, right? Your readers, your examiner, your teachers wants to know that. That's why you can't use Wikipedia anymore, okay? Because Wikipedia, most of the articles on Wikipedia doesn't tell you who wrote it, right? Could be anyone, okay? Right. So you have to select your source of information. For academic writing, your sources also have to be academic. So what are examples of academic sources? Journal, you know, scientific papers. And those can be found in your e-library. All right. If you're a student of a university, then you have access to your e-library. You can go and search for scientific journals, right? But if you don't have access to e-library, then you can use Google Scholar. Okay. Google Scholar is different from your everyday Google in that Google Scholar doesn't just give you random sources. It doesn't give you a Facebook of someone or a blog from someone, right? It will it's used a different database. It will look for information in the scientific journals, you know. Okay, and it show you the result. And when you click on the links, it's going to take you to a page where you are allowed to read most of the time just the first page or the abstract of that scientific paper. Because this thing is, it has copyright on it. All right, it has what we call intellectual property. If you want to read the full version, you have to buy it. It can be quite expensive. Okay. So, yep, you have to plan on the source of your information. Second, you have to plan on the outline. You need to know how your assignment or your essay should look. This is pretty much like an architectural design. If you're an architect, your job is to design a place, a house for someone to live, correct? Okay. And every architect has to be able to understand the demand and the needs of their clients in order to come up with a design that matches the personality and also satisfy the needs and demands of the clients. Writer, pretty much an architect, because you need to understand your readers and be able to design the outline, okay, the layout of your paragraph. It's like that, okay? Um, if you write an essay, imagine says, I want you to talk about how to solve climate change. Okay, and you write everything all in one paragraph, and that one paragraph consists of the statement of problem, causes of global warming, different strategies to alleviate the effect of global warming, and some strategy to prevent the rate of temperatures to go even higher. And you put them all in one paragraph. Nobody will like that, okay? Because it's difficult to digest. It's like a big chunk of information, too hard to digest. No one like it. Okay, so that's a poor way of presenting your work. Okay, instead, if you break it down into different paragraphs, you have, okay, here's an introduction. The introduction will not explain everything. The introduction is just there to tell your readers that, hey, this is the purpose of this writing. All right. This writing, this article will be about the causes of global warming and how we can minimize the impact of it. Okay. And when readers see this in your intro, then they can decide whether to carry on or not. If they're not interested in global warming, they just, you know, you know, dismiss, which is okay, right? Because we don't want people to do something that they don't want to, and if it is not subject of their interest right now, then don't worry, come back later. Okay, but if they're interested, then they will continue with your body paragraph. Okay, and if you have a different body paragraph, each with a good heading that say, okay, this paragraph will be about the causes of global warming. Here are the causes. Global warming could be caused by A, B, and C. Moving on to the next paragraph, okay? Here are some strategies to reduce the impact of global warming based on the aforementioned causes, okay? And here are some ways to prevent the temperatures from going even higher. And then you summarize everything just to refresh the memory. This is a better way, to satisfy your readers. You make it easy for them to understand. Okay. So you have to decide the layout, right? That's part of the planning. Okay. So once you know where the source of your information is going to come from, how you're going to present your information, the rest is just writing everything down. Okay. Now, by planning, you will also know how long it will take you to complete your assignment, how long it will take you to complete an essay. All right? Because when you write without having to think, everyone's writing speed is pretty much similar, you know? Like, I don't know, 20 words per minute or something. Okay, but when you have to write and think at the same time, that can slow you down dramatically. So you don't want to write and think. Okay, write and then think, write and then think. You want to think, all right, you want to plan, and when you plan, you think. Okay, this is what the questions want to know. This is where I'm going to bring the information from, my source of information. This is how I'm going to present. My introduction will contain this much information. My body will contain this much information. Okay, this is going to be the topic sentence. It's going to be the linking transitional word. This is going to be my main point. I'm going to use, 3 supporting sentences, blah, blah, blah. Okay. If you have this some sort of blueprint, then you are ready to start building your project. You're ready to start writing your essay. It should work like that. All right. Engineering is perfect when it comes to planning, because, civil engineer, they deal with big mega projects, building a highway, building a house, right? It's a lot of stake behind it, all right? A lot of money in the project. If they make a mistake, then that means the projects will fail, right? They may end up owing people money instead of making money. If you can't meet the deadline, then you have to pay up, right? That's going to be some fine. You have to pay up. So they have to plan very well, okay, in every details. And when they execute the plan, they don't stop and think anymore. All right. So that's how efficient, engineers are. So you in this part of in this stage you're planning, you have to think like an engineer. All right. You need to have everything ready. And once you have the plan, you don't go back and make any change. You just follow through. Okay, so here are some of the advantage of planning. It will cut out unnecessary or irrelevant bits. Okay, so if you plan that you would know that you would know um, information that needs to be there. If you don't plan, chances are that you might add certain thing that may not be relevant, may not be necessary for your readers. Okay, a good example is a lot of people when they write introduction, they want to start off by talking about a definition. Says, I want you to write about how to solve traffic jam. Now, most people will start off by talking about what traffic jam is. Right? Traffic jam is a problem in many major cities around the world. It leads to other problems like environmental pollution, blah, blah, blah. Are they necessary? Maybe not. Because people who read this article, they are already aware of how serious the problem is. They just want to know how to deal with the problem. So you don't have to create awareness. Okay? All right. So that information, not necessary. All right. Planning also enables you to remember all the information that must be included. Yeah, that's right. Now, sometimes, when you rush, okay, says, okay, I want you to write about how to solve traffic congestion. And because you're rushing, you jump right into the strategy. Say, okay, there are 3 different strategies to address traffic congestion. First is to improve public transportation. Second is to raise the gas price. Okay. And third is to stop people from relocating themselves. And by the time you about to write your conclusion, you realize that, hey, I should have talked about the causes of traffic jam first. I'm sorry. Hello, สวัสดีครับ Okay, sorry about that. And then you realize that, hey, I should have talked about the contributing factor of traffic jam first, because otherwise my choices for strategies will not be justified, right? You select a certain strategy to solve a problem based on what you believe to be the contributing factor or to be the cause of the problem. Okay? But it's too late now because you have written hundreds of words already. You can't go back. So that's unfortunate. But if you plan, if you make an outline, okay, and then you say, hey, all right, maybe I should add another paragraph to talk about the causes of traffic jam. It's not too late, right? Because you are playing with your layout. It's just bullet points. All right, you can remove or add bullet points as you need. But once it's written in paragraph, you can't erase that anymore. Even if you can, it's going to take so much time. Okay? So that's the second advantage of planning. It helps you to remember all the information that must be included. Third, it helps you to decide on the most effective way to present your information. Okay? Between strategies, causes, effects. Again, we are talking about traffic jam problem. Let's use that example. Which should come first? The impact of traffic congestion, solution to traffic congestions, or causes of traffic congestion? What should come first? Impact of traffic congestion should come first, right? Because that will raise the awareness of how serious this problem is. And then before you offer your solution, before you make any proposal on your solution, what are the causes? Every city, has different causes for traffic jam. In Bangkok, for example, what do you think are the causes of traffic jam? Well, people's driving behaviors, first of all, right? A lot of people, they don't always comply with the laws of traffic. Yeah. People who drive slow sometimes take the rightmost lane. And, when you want to switch lane, you don't create distance. You just move. Sometimes people don't give any light signals, and that can lead to accidents, right? Also, we have increasing number of cars, maybe on a yearly basis, because more and more people just move in to live in Bangkok. It's not just the locals anymore because we have expats. We have people from other countries to come and live in Bangkok, and they have their demand for transport, right? So these are the factors, right? In other city like Auckland, New Zealand, they have traffic congestion, right? But it's not because people don't obey the law. New Zealanders, New Zealand driver, they obey the laws. They take the law very seriously. They even have a lane just for a bus, right? We don't have bus lanes. Bus is everywhere. All right, they can take any lanes. All right. I think there's bus lane too, but people just don't care about it. You know, cars will sometimes, cars takes bus lane, and when the buses have the lanes taken, they start using others people's lanes. That's how it is in our country. In New Zealand, they have a bus lane, and you cannot drive on a bus lane. Otherwise, you will face a hefty fine of about $300. That's about 6,000 baht, right? Okay. So the reasons mainly for traffic is just limited number of lanes. Highway in New Zealand, 2 lanes maximum. We have what? Four 5, 6 lane. New Zealand 2 lanes. And each car has to keep distance, their speed limit at many spot, maximum 100 kilometers an hour. When you get to a residential area, the speed drops to about 40 kilometers an hour, and that's caught by speed camera. That's a lot of money you have to pay. All right. So yeah, every city has its own traffic jam, and the traffic jam has its own causes. So impact, causes, and strategy to deal with those causes. This is how you should. This should be a logical order for problem and solution kind of essay. Okay, impacts, causes, and solutions. That's how you decide on the most effective way to present your information. But what if you're not writing about cause and effects? If you're writing about maybe um, why should we have the zoo? All right, well, should we should we continue to have the zoo, or um, should we be against the existence of the zoo? Should we close down the zoo, or should we continue to have the zoo? All right. In this case here, you might have reasons. Your first reasons for having the zoo, keeping the zoo, maybe because, well, it's uh, it's pretty much like a place that can educate young people to have the right attitude towards animals. So we actually um, um, helping the younger generation to realize how important wild animals are, right? And we give them positive influence. We try to influence their attitude to love animals instead of trying to exploit them, you know. Yeah. Another reason could be, you know, zoo is kind of like it's pretty much similar to jungle or forest, but with some protection. All right. The Of course the freedom is limited, but with reduced freedom, they have they are more safe in the zoo because they cannot be hunted down by hunters or killed by predators. So it's more like a safe house, you know, to animals. Another reasons could be, I don't know, why should we keep the zoo? Generate to be a source of income, maybe. Anyway, so once you have all these ideas, right, all these reasons, then you want to arrange them. You can start with the most important reason and make your way down to the least important reason. First of all, zoos can educate young people to have the right attitude towards animals. Second, zoo offer protection. And third, the zoo can be source of income. You can do that, right? But then if you start off with the most important reasons, then people probably don't want to read about the rest of the reasons because they have the most important thing already. It's kind of like, you know, when you watch boxing and they start with with the with the main program, you know, the main bout, then people won't care about the rest of the fights because they have already because they see who they're waiting to see already. Okay, so you want to start off with smaller reasons, not so important, and then make your way down to the most important reasons. So you can start off with, okay, well, first of all, zoos could be a good source of income for the country, you know? But then, and then aside from being a good source of income, zoos can offer protection to wild animals because they can keep them away from poachers and hunters and some predators. Not only that, zoos can also propagate the bloodline. It helps animals to reproduce. And most important of all, it can educate young people to have the right attitude towards animals. All right, because it allows young people to be at close range to the animal, to form a bond with them. So when they grow up, they will love animal and want to save them. Wow, you see? You leave your most important reasons last because you want to leave the lasting effect. Okay? So maybe this is a better way to present your information, starting with uh, a not so important reason and then finish off with the most important reason. Right. Third, organize your thought efficiently. Needless to say, right? Okay. So, because when you plan, you will have your outline. It's like a blueprint. You will know exactly how you want to start, how you want to progress, and how you want to finish. Efficiently means without wasting so much time. Okay? All right. So, if you plan, you will not waste your time when you are writing. This is how you organize your thought efficiently. Okay. That's it. Now, I would like to give you another 10 minutes break. In fact, I want to give myself 10 minutes break because I've been talking too much and my throat is kind of dry. Okay, I'll see you guys in 10 minutes.
Okay, people. Okay, now let's talk about your audience. It says here that understanding your audience is a critical component of effective writing. You must find out who will read your essay and why they're reading it. What do they know about your subject? And what is your relationship with the readers? Okay, so let's break this down. When they say you need to know who read your essay and why they are reading it, it doesn't mean you need to know the name of you don't need to know that reader in person. You don't need to see his or her face. You don't need to know her name. You don't need to know his or her personality. I mean, it's cool though if you can obtain that information, right? But that's not necessary. Okay? In other words, you just need to know what they want to know, right? What they need to see. How are you going to get that information? Read the exam criteria, assignment criteria, marking scheme, you know? That's where you have to go and read. I'm going to give you an example of an IELTS examination, okay? Now, a lot of people have to take this test if they want to study abroad when they go to UK, Australia, or New Zealand. They need to get IELTS score. And the band that are generally accepted are band 6.5, band 7, 7.5, and band 8. Band 8 being the most prestigious band, very difficult to get. All right. Okay. So how are you going to get band 6.5 or band 7 or band 7.5? You need to know the criteria. Now, IELTS examiners don't really care much about your scientific knowledge or your um, economics knowledge, history knowledge. They don't care if you are very precise with your calculation, precise with the time that an event happened in the past. They don't care about those details. Unlike SAT, they do care about the accuracy of your information. IELTS, on the other hand, don't. As long as they don't start to sound ridiculous, all right, it's okay. As long as they sound reasonable, it's okay. IELTS exam, they want to see a good piece of writing, easy to understand, first of all. All right, they want to have a good time. They want to be able to read your essay and understand the message that you try to communicate with them. That's the first thing. All right. If you can give them a good time, all right, if they can read your work without scratching their head, you start you start at 6.5 or 6.0 already. You don't have to make effort, don't have to scratch the head. You start off on a good foot, 6.0, 6.5. Okay? Now, if you allow them to appreciate your style or your use of language, now that's going to be an add to your score, maybe a 7. Okay? People who get a 7, they do so. Why? Because they're able to use precise terms. Okay? So band 7 people, they tend to be more knowledgeable about stuff they're talking about. If you're knowledgeable about, if you know about the stuff you talk about, then you can choose better words. For example, if you ask me to write about, I don't know, if you ask me to write about art and music, you won't appreciate my use of words because I don't know a lot of technical terms or the precise term to use in art. Okay. But if you ask me to write about, um, how renewable energies are going to slow down the rate of an increase in global temperatures,
you appreciate my use of language because I have technical knowledge of this, and my technical knowledge reflects in my word choices. Okay, while other people might say using oil, burning oil. You can't burn oil. First of all, oil. You use the term oil. You talk about crude oil that is extracted, from underneath the ground. Crude oil, right? It has high viscosity. You can't burn it. It won't catch fire. Okay. Um, you can only burn fuel. Okay. So the oil has to be refined. Okay. Once the oil is refined, it becomes fuel. You can have gasoline. You can have jet fuel. You can have, every other fuel. It's a product of oil refinery. So using terms like burning oil is not technically correct. You cannot burn oil. Okay. Um, so I would not use burn while other people use word like burning oil. I would not use it because it's not technically correct. Okay. While other people use words like burn oil, burn coal, burn natural gas, I'm using the term fossil fuels because uh, those are fossil fuels. Instead of breaking it down to, three words, oil, natural gas, coal, one word. I'm using one word, fossil fuel. Okay, so while I use fossil fuel, other people don't do that, and my examiner is going to appreciate my choice of words better. All right. Okay, so band seven, they tend to know better about their own subject matter. They be able to use what they learn from school to the advantage in the exam. Okay, all right. Band eight, on the other hand, they 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 have they not only have good knowledge, but they also have good style. Band seven, they make slips every once in a while. Okay, they cannot be very consistent with the tone. Okay, sometimes they're academic, other times they appear to be a little bit more conversation-like, and then they go back to being academic again. So it's like fluctuates all the way through. But band eight, they're more consistent with the tone. Okay, so if you know what your examiner is looking for, then you know what part of your skills that needs improving. Some people think that, hey, I just need to be able to use complex structure. I need to show off my grammar knowledge. Is that something that your examiner is really looking for? Not really, right? Grammar is an integral part of your coherence. To judge whether your sentence is natural or not, it takes more than just grammar. It takes word usage as well. So you need to know the part of speech of the word that you use, the definition that you want to use, the collocation of the word that you want to use. Okay? You need to be able to select a good grammatical structure and then follow the rules. So following the rule is not the main thing. Yes, it is important, but it's not the main thing. Now think of it this way: if I write some things like China is a country that is extremely powerful. Is it is there anything wrong with my sentence? No. Right? Am I following the rules of grammar? Yes. All right. Did I use any wrong collocation? No. This sentence is perfectly fine, right? China is a country that is extremely powerful. Fine. But compare this sentence with this. China is an extremely powerful country. You see the difference? The first sentence sort of try to extend the sentence, try to make it longer by using an adjective clause. The other one, China is an extremely powerful country, it doesn't rely on adjective clause. It's just use basic adjective and adverb. Okay? So using complex structure is not always a good idea. Sometimes it can be an overkill, doing more than you should, like that example I gave you, right? Okay. So if you know the criteria, then you know what your examiner prioritize, what your readers prioritize. Okay? Our examiner, they don't prioritize your technical knowledge. They prioritize how easy it is to understand your work. They prioritize coherence. Okay? And then they prioritize your cohesion or idea development. That's what they prioritize. Okay? Right. The next thing they care about would be your grammar and then your use of words. The last thing they probably look at is your content. Okay? It's your content. They don't care about fancy ideas. All right? They don't care about that. Some of you may say, hey, I need to use this very, scientific evidence because that is very convincing. You're right. Being convincing is good. Being persuasive is good. But you also need to know what your reader is looking for. Do they want to be persuaded? You know, maybe our examiner, they don't care if they're being persuaded. Maybe they don't have any opinions on any particular issue at all. They just want to see good piece of writing, easy to understand and having academic tone. That's it. Okay. But your college professor, your university professor are going to be different. Okay. When you're writing an assignment to your lectures, your assignment is based on the assumption that your grammar and your use of words are native-like. So your lecturer won't be looking at your grammatical errors at all. They assume this to be perfect, right? They assume your grammar to be at a level that is, high enough for academic communication. So your grammar is assumed to be native, perfect. Your choice of words, perfect. Okay? What they're looking for is how you apply the concept that you learn in your session. How you apply that concept. Okay? Right. So sometimes you might have to think about a scenario where a certain concept that you learn can be applied. Right. So they want to see how well you can grasp the concept that you learn, how you understand and how you can apply that in real life situations. That's what your college professor want to see. Okay? Right. What do they know about your subject? The second one in the list. All right. As a good writer, all right, you need to know how much your readers know about your subject. Now, um, if you don't know your audience, you don't know who's rating your audience, you have to assume that they don't know much about your subject. Okay, when you make that assumption, it will stop you from going too deep in details or using some technical jargons, technical terms. Okay, because if you assume that everyone is at a level with you, then chances are that you will be you will feel too comfortable using something that might be off the top of your head, but is difficult for other people to understand because they don't have the same background as you do. Okay? Right. So you have to bear in mind that not everyone is at a level with you. Not everyone know the stuff as much as you do. So that means you have to sometimes explain your technical terms or try to come up with some example to explain your point. All right. If you're writing to someone who know as much as you do, you don't need too many examples. It would be a waste of time if you add too many examples. Just get to the point, right? But if you're writing to someone who don't know the stuff the same way you do, more example, more explanation for technical terms, more analogy, okay? More analogy. Right. What is your relationship with the reader? What's for? Well, um, the relationship here will determine how much you can leave something, how much omissions you can make. You know, sometimes when you are writing, okay, um, you can make omissions based on the assumption that your readers probably already know. Okay. For example, when I say we have to reduce the consumption if we want to save the environment. When I say reduce the consumption, I'm making an omission here. I assume that you know what kind of consumption I'm talking about, right? We have to reduce our consumption in order to save the environment. So when I do this, I assume that my readers already know it. Okay. So if you know your readers, you can cut back on some details that might not be necessary, details that you assume that your readers already know. But if I don't think you understand what I'm talking about, then I can't make omission. All right. I have to add more words into my sentence. So I can't say we have to reduce consumption anymore because you won't know what consumption I'm talking about. So I have to say we have to reduce our power consumption. Okay. But if my readers has absolutely no clue about the subject I'm writing about, then I have to add more word. We have to reduce our electrical power consumption. Okay, just to be perfectly clear, electrical power consumption. If you want to save the environment, then more words. Okay, right. The relationship also determine how formal you have to be. If you know your readers very well, then you can be a little bit less formal. All right, you can leave behind some words, omit some words. Okay, but if you have no idea who your reader is, then everything has to be perfect. Everything has to be there. All right. Okay. Let's skip through some of this exercise. Knowing your purpose. So, as a good writer, you know your audience. Next, you need to know your purpose. This can sometimes be, easier said than done. Um, there was a time when I was training a student to to uh to write for IELTS exam, right? And then there was this question. What was it? Um, Nicotine addiction, right? Nicotine addiction is the result of television commercials. We will also use this for our writing practice as well. Okay, television commercials, the reason for the high level of nicotine addiction. And for that matters, we have to ban all sort of media from advertising cigarettes. Do you agree or not? All right. Now, so it is clear from the questions that you have to address that doubt whether banning cigarette advertising is going to be a good strategy to stop young people from smoking. But sometimes, people get carried away. All right. Sometimes people want to focus on something that they like to talk about. So one of my students just used the whole page to talk about the impacts of smoking because I think she's a medical doctor and she knows so much about the health impacts of smoking cigarette. And she's got very excited about that. Okay, so instead of answering the question, right, she went totally off track, to talking about the health effects of smoking cigarettes. This is totally not totally irrelevant, right? The questions assume that um, everyone already knows about the impacts of smoking. The question is, how are we going to reduce the level of young people's addiction to cigarettes? Yeah. So yeah, don't get carried away. Don't get carried away. You need to know the purpose. Some people say, hey, my purpose is to get good feedback. I want to get grade A. I want to get 90%. All right. I want to get A plus, 90%. Of course, everyone's goal is to get as high a mark as possible. You want to get high distinction, A plus, depending on your system. Okay. But in order to do that, you have to answer the question. You have to address all parts of the question. Okay. So how do you address all part of the question? You need to read your questions carefully. Read the question carefully. I can't stress this, um, um, you know, I can't stress this enough. Read the question. Okay. And when you read the questions, you want to focus on the direction words. So direction words are words such as this: compare, describe, propose. Can you see at the top of my page? Compare, describe, propose, contrast, encourage, review, convince, blah, blah, blah. Focus on this, okay? Because these words tells you what you have to do to get good marks. Don't go off track. Don't beat around the bush. Focus on it, okay? Now, it turns out that many people don't quite understand the meaning of this word. For example, many people don't know the difference between compare and contrast. What is compare? What is contrast? Are they the same thing? No, they're not the same thing. And we'll talk more about that. Okay? When the instructions say compare, what do you have to do? When the instructions say contrast, what do you have to do? Now, if you understand the meaning behind this word, not only will it help you to answer the questions more pertinently, but it will also help you to decide on the structural choices, word choices, linking words, how you present your information. It tells you everything. Okay? Right. Understand the assigned topic. Now, what is it? Assigned topic. Um, Sometimes your assignments comes in open-ended format. So what is open-ended format? Open-ended formats means you can write anything that you want about the subject matters. Okay? Everything will be fine. Okay? As long as you that you refer to the good source of information. So open-ended assignment is quite rare, to be honest. Okay, most of the time, this is for I think for lower level. Open-ended assignment is designed to help students to elicit their ideas, help students um, to not be too shy to present their ideas. What is an example of open-ended assignment question? Well, please write about global warming. Something like describe global warming. Yeah. It's very simple. It sounds very simple. You can write anything you want about global warming. That's open-ended assignment. There's no right or wrong. Just just how well can you write? How well you can justify your information. Okay? That's open-ended. But most of the time you will be dealing with narrow-ended, okay, not open-ended, close-ended. So close-ended assignment has clear instructions on what you have to do. Okay. While close-ended assignment give you less freedom. Okay. It 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 allows you to stay on track. It gives you a guideline. All right. You know the path where you have to walk on. Okay. So that's pros and cons of open-ended and closed-ended. But either way, you have to be able to do both. Okay. Now, what is also important about understanding a science topic is that you have to uh, um, you cannot ignore you cannot ignore the questions. Okay. Some people, you know, some people think that they have better ideas than what the question is asking. Some people think, hey, this is a stupid question. Let's not talk about it. Let's talk about something more important. Well, that's not very nice. Okay. Um, so don't be thinking that you have better ideas than your instructor. Okay. Um, um, for example, if I ask, education is a big problem. Um, what should we do to address some of the education issues around the world? And you say, oh, I don't think education is that big of a deal. I think health issue is the bigger deals than, education problems. Okay. Now, when you do this, you begin to disrespect your audience, your readers, because your readers want to know about education issues, not health issues. So it's not your call to say that health issues are more important than education issues. Okay. All right. But sometimes, you have to do the other way, when you sort of run out of idea, when you don't have any ideas to develop for a particular essay. Sometimes you have to sort of convince your readers to focus on something else that you think is more important. Okay, so sometimes we have to do this, not most of the time. Most of the time, do what your readers want. Answer their questions. Answer every questions they want to know. But sometimes you have to convince the reader that, hey, don't worry about this. Let's worry about other things. Let me give you an example. That was back in the days, right? There was one IELTS question that asked, is it a good idea to accept equal number of male and female students in every class? Just like that. Is it a good idea to accept equal number of male and female? So for example, if a class has 20 males, it should have 20 females. If a class has 5 males, then 5 females, something like that. And my students, uh, turns out she had no clue. I mean, she doesn't know, um, what would be the benefits of having equal number of male and female students in every class, and how is that going to help with academic performance? No idea. I mean, just because there are as many girls as boys doesn't mean they're not going to fail the test if they don't study for it, right? Yeah. And having the same number of boys and girls doesn't mean they will understand the subject better. So she has no clue. I mean, what's the point? All right. So in this case here, this is an exception, right? If you play along, then you hit the dead end. You can't go on. So you have to think outside the box. You in this situation, you have to sort of convince your reader not to worry so much about this method of accepting equal number of males and females. Okay, but then you have to be a little bit strategic. All right, you have to sort of understand where is this coming from? Why would someone want to give you this kind of suggestion? You know, you have to analyze a little bit. If I walk up to you guys and say, hey, why don't you do some exercise? Please go and do some running, do 30 minutes running or sit up. Would you do exactly what I asked you to right away? Well, if you do, I appreciate it. All right. But I I rather that you don't, right? If someone give you any suggestion, don't do that right away. Ask them first why, right? Why? Why would you want me to do exercise? What's wrong with me? Am I too fat for you? You don't think I look strong to you? Do I look weak to you or something? Ask the question first. Why? Why would why would someone want you to do exercise? And if I say, I think you are getting too much weight, like you're looking a little bit overweight. Yeah, you have a big waistline, you're gonna lose some fat. Well, in that case, then you have to ask yourself, what's the reason for your weight gain? Are you not keeping up with regular exercise? Is it because you have beat you have bad eating habit? You have poor diet? What is it? Okay. If it turns out that, oh, you just eat whatever you want and you eat so much amount of, fat and sugar, then exercise will not help much. Okay. Exercise cannot help much. You need to control your eating habit. You need to control your diet. Okay. So you'll be able to reject my proposal. You can say, oh, okay, Nat, thank you for your suggestion, but I think the reason why I'm gaining weight is not because I don't keep up with exercise, but because of my poor eating habit. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start cutting back on my carb consumption. All right, and let's see if my weight drops in 2 weeks' time, something like that. Okay, all right. So in this case here, you got to ask yourself, why would someone make that suggestion, accepting equal numbers of male and female students? So there must be some sort of problems going on, right? Otherwise, this suggestion would not come to life, all right? Okay. There must be some problem, even though we cannot identify yet. There has to be problem. So what is it? What sort of problem? Okay. What is the kind of problem that can be addressed by having equal number of male and female students? Not, I can't think of any, right? I can't think of any problems. So in that case, you will need to convince the reader that, hey, there are actually more um, important um, issues regarding education, such as lack of education opportunity, high unemployment rate for the graduates, okay, and maybe lack of personnel or facilities to provide good education. You have to convince the reader that, hey, there are more pressing issues, more urgent issues that need to be addressed. These are the global concerns right now, right? Lack of opportunity, lack of personnel, lack of teachers, high unemployment rate among the graduates. Okay. And then Okay, so once you can convince your readers to accept this as the main major global issues regarding education, then you move on to sort of um, sort of downplay the previous suggestion that okay, accepting equal males and female students might be good. It might be a good strategy for some reason, but not to address these global issues, right? Accepting equal number of male and female students is not going to um, give poor children in Ethiopia an opportunity for education, right? It's not going to help those who graduate bachelor degree to get a job, right? It is not going to, increase the number of teachers. It's not going to help the governments to increase the, resource or the budget to fund, for education equipment and whatnot. All right, it's not going to help. Okay, so now your reader will see that okay, this suggestion is not a priority right now. All right, okay, what takes priority are this, and then you can come up with your own solution to the problem. How are you going to provide opportunity to poor children in Ethiopia to get education? Maybe distant learning, right? Distant learning is cheap because it does not require, uh, you don't need to have a school in Ethiopia. All right, you just need internet infrastructure. Children in Ethiopia could go to or could study at MIT, right? Without actually going to America. All they need is, laptop computer and good internet connection. Something like that. Okay. So distant learning, all right, to address education opportunity. Um, what about unemployment, graduate unemployment? Okay, so the university will have to make sure that there's internship and that students are applying for or are enrolling in subject that has good career opportunities. So university should not just sell the courses just to make money, but they have to think about the future of the students as well. All right. If students, graduate with this degree, does that meet the demand in the job market? If it doesn't, well, probably not a good choice. Something like that. Okay. All right. So, all right, guys. So I like to wrap up today's lessons, okay? Because uh, we're about to run out of time. Okay. So let's recap what we have done so far. Okay. So today, we talk about techniques to build our vocabulary, and I suggest that you guys go home and try to use my techniques to build your vocab. Okay. Um, the next thing we talk about today was the essence of planning. Why is it that we need to plan? All right. Um, the next topic we talk about today is how important it is to understand your audience and what it means by understanding your audience. All right. The next thing we talk about is the importance of direction words. The last thing we talk about is how important it is to understand the assigned topic, how not to go off track. Okay. So thank you everyone for participation, and I hope to see you guys in our next session. Until next time, take care. Goodbye.